If racial or economic or partisan differences were on display in terms of campaign strategy today, a sit-up-and-take-notice new poll has found that we Americans are extraordinarily united about some things. Men and women, Republicans and Democrats, Americans agree that the country is off track. A new New York Times CBS poll finds a staggering 81%, more than 4 out of 5 Americans, say things in our country are going the wrong direction, versus 14% who say things are fine, keep it coming. These are the worst numbers in this poll's 17-year history. Despite the fact that the number of unemployed Americans has grown by more than 1 million in the past year, despite the fact that the number of jobs in the U.S. shrank by 80,000 last month alone, despite the fact that this decade's economic expansion is now ending as the first in recorded history to do so without improving household income, despite the fact that the government is projecting nearly 1 in 10 Americans to be on food stamps in the next year, despite all of that, the same poll finds voters comparatively favorable toward the one candidate who so far is promising 4 more years, Senator John McCain. McCain is only 5 points behind Obama, 47 to 42, and he's only 5 points behind Clinton, 48 to 43. Joining us to crunch these numbers, MSNBC political analyst, also senior editor at Newsweek, Jonathan Alter. Hi, John.
Hi, Rachel.
First, can you put these wrong track numbers in context for us, historically and causally? What do you think's behind them?
Well, first of all, they are really huge. Just 3 years ago, in 2005, it was about 50% who thought the country was on the wrong track. George Bush promised in 2000 to be a uniter and not a divider, and he has succeeded. He has united the country in believing that the future is going to be worse. And this may be, the first generation that does worse than their parents. That's always the fear when people are thinking this way. So this is just bad news for the government as a whole, and that would include the Democratic Congress, since the public tends to hold the government responsible for the country being on the wrong track.
Although if you look at the overall downward trajectory of these numbers during the Bush administration, it seems fairly clear that Bush and his Republican policies are getting a lion's share of the blame for the state that we're in from Americans. If that's the case, why don't the wrong track numbers mirror the numbers for John McCain? He's a Republican household name, Republican Washington insider for a generation, famously a hugger of George W. Bush. Why don't these numbers track his numbers?
Well, I think it's because he does have this reputation as being a maverick. Now, remember, he is not Bush's vice president. If he was vice president, it would be very hard for him to separate himself from Bush, but he did depart from Bush on dozens of votes, including many important votes, particularly in the early years of the Bush administration, and he established a public profile of himself as something other than George Bush's lackey. So it's not that surprising that they don't seem to be joined at the hip in the public imagination, and it's up to the Democrats to campaign against him as John McSame, the Bush-McCain policies. And they will try to do that, but they haven't really had time to, Rachel, because they've been so busy fighting each other.
Right. And meanwhile, John McCain, a lot of those early votes against George Bush are things that he has flip-flopped on, things like the Bush tax cuts, things like immigration, things even like drilling in Anwar. McCain himself says he's offering a continuation of the Bush policy on both the war and the economy. But why do you think that he is still treated as a maverick in the media, as if he's offering some substantial departure from the status quo?
Well, I think it's because the battle hasn't really been joined. It's up to the Democrats, and this is what politics is about, to portray him as, Abe Simpson, Bart's grandfather, the crotchety old guy who wants to foreclose on your house. That's not the job of the media to do. That will come out of our politics, and I think it's only a matter of time because, McCain made a speech recently that was very unsympathetic to people who had been victimized by predatory lending. His health care plan does nothing for those who are discriminated against because of pre-existing conditions, and that's a lot of Americans. So there are certain issues where he is really out of step with the American public. But the American public doesn't quite know it yet because the general election campaign hasn't really gotten going.
And of course, with such a positive relationship between McCain and the media historically, there's always the risk that if the Democrats do start going after him on that stuff, what they'll get is attacked for going negative on St. John McCain.
Well, I think that's a good point. And there is that relationship with the media that's been very strong for many years, partly because McCain is so accessible. and he feeds the beast, you know, and being accessible takes you a long way with the media.
Jonathan Alter, thanks for being accessible to us tonight. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Rachel.
Jonathan Alter of MSNBC and Newsweek. Next week is the 5th anniversary of the fall of Baghdad, when the Bush administration's goal of toppling Saddam Hussein was achieved. And the subsequent mission for U.S. forces in Iraq became harder to summarize in 3 words or less. On the anniversary, Americans will hear a progress report on Iraq from General Petraeus, but it will be the facts only the Bush administration wants out there. The views of the intelligence community are being kept under wraps. And Senator Clinton does late-night comedy. Will adding some snark to the sniper controversy put that issue to rest? You're watching Countdown on MSNBC.
Some cruise lines tell you who to eat with. Then there's freestyle cruising, only from Norwegian Cruise Line, where you're free to whatever.
I just can't seem to get it right today. Just can't seem to get it right today. Just can't seem to get it right today. I guess I'm gonna give up. Oh, I guess I'm gonna give up.
The fuel-efficient Kia Spectra. With fewer fill-ups, you may just forget which side it's on, starting around $13,500.
5 years after the fall of Saddam, General Petraeus set to give another Iraq progress report to Congress. But the findings of the intel community won't be anywhere for public consumption. Are the facts in Iraq too politically inconvenient to see the light of day? Or is that whole informed citizenry thing generally just so last century? And later, happy anniversary to Countdown, the war against terror triggering the death of habeas corpus. What you voted is one of your most favorite Keith segments in Countdown's history. That's next. This is Countdown.